House of Delegates member, Loudoun County, David Ramadan. Hey, David, good to have you, man.
Morning, John. It's good to be back on. How are you?
Good. Now, David, let's cut right to the chase. You're not too happy with some of the rhetoric on by a couple three Republican candidates having to do with Muslims, mosques, registering Syrian refugees. What's your beef?
Well, I've created the Morons Club, as you know, and I put your guy as number one on the Morons Club.
Who's that? Trump?
We are in a real war, John. We're in a real war, and no, it's not against climate change, as this president claims. It is against radical Islamic terrorists. It is against groups of crazy nuts that will see pleasure in killing us. They are organized. They have started a country. They are influencing individuals, as we saw in San Bernardino yesterday. We don't need to wait to speculate. We saw that. We saw them radicalize people through the internet, through lectures. This is a fact. These are facts that are undisputable. Anybody who disputes them is also a moron. The answer to that, though, is not the phobia that we're seeing. Is not the rhetoric that we're hearing. The answer to that is not to go and close every mosque in America and create a database for every Arab in America and make them wear a scarlet letter. The answer to that is not internment camps that the moron mayor of Roanoke called for. The answer to that is not to call Arabs and Muslims that are American patriots rabid dogs, as Carson did. The answer to that is not to put the 14, mostly men and women, that are refugees in Louisiana who had been through a 2-year vetting process under 24-hour state police surveillance as Jindal ordered. Another moron in the club. No, I lost all public decorum, and now I'm calling them members of the Moron Club. The answer to that is to really create a foreign policy and solve the problem that we have. So look, this refugee problem is two parts. Part of it, the first part is, what do we do? Do we take in refugees or not? Our history says that America was built on taking in refugees. Is it really a security problem? If it is a security problem, everybody understands. Nobody wants to bring in terrorists to America. I mean, if you really think any one of us wants a terrorist in America, you're crazy. We don't. But it's not really a security problem. These refugees are going through 2 years of a process. Is it perfect? No, it's never perfect. But it's a xenophobia problem. It's fear. Don't listen to me. Listen to the Jewish groups that came out against closing out the borders. Listen to the CEO of American and the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, who said that closing these borders to refugees now is as wrong as it was in 1930s when we closed it against Jews. Listen to our evangelical groups that are bringing these huddled masses from around the world, and yes, bringing them to the Lord and showing them the way to Christianity, and been settling them for years and said, no, don't close the borders. Listen to the Catholic charities that are doing the same thing and said, don't close the borders. So, okay, you don't listen to those? Let's listen to some security experts. Let's listen to people that know how it affects America in the future if we do. Listen to Chertoff, our conservative former Secretary of Homeland Security. Listen to Kissinger. Listen to Petraeus. Listen to the other generals who said, this is a matter of national security. We need to fulfill our American obligations of taking in refugees from areas such as Iraq and Syria, where we have committed to taking them. And who will help us in the future if we abandon our allies now We abandoned those people from Syria that we put in camps for 2 years or told them and have been vetting them through camps for 2 years. People that work with us, people that are interpreters, people that how do we help ourselves in the future if we abandon all of these people?
Well, look, David. One, and I appreciate your passion on this issue. That's why I wanted to have you on. But number one, we have no obligation to do a damn thing with these people,
Sure.
David, we're $20 trillion in debt. Okay, the country is circling the drain financially. David, let me finish. David, I gave you 8 minutes.
Put your big pants on. This is not a dollars issue.
It's $65,000 a piece to bring these Syrian refugees in right now. We got 27,000 people homeless in Los Angeles living under bridges and storm drains. We have veterans. In the country that we can't get care. Look, close the borders until we figure this out. You've just got ISIS.
All immigration.
David,
all refugees.
I'm in favor of shutting the entire thing down. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something else. You've got ISIS right now put a video out mocking the United States and saying that we have infiltrated. That they put the video out the same day they put the video out that they sent to Putin, chopping off the Russian's head. They sent that at the same time they send the video out, and this video says we have infiltrated the Syrian refugee process with thousands of fighters, thousands. Then you look at these Syrian. Now, David, I'm not done. I gave you 8 minutes. You look at these Syrian refugees. You look at the ones pouring into Europe, and what do you see? You see a litany of young, healthy men. Now, here's my question. Rather than take them to the United States, $65,000 each, we don't know who they are. We don't know if they've infiltrated anything. So we can put them on welfare and buy them an ice cream cone. And then we got Lindsey Graham saying that they want to send 20,000 U.S. troops, our men and women, our daughters and sons, to go fight for these men that are running away from their country. You got to be out of your mind. If you think that I'm going to send my son to get his head blown off to fight for Syrian men who are running away to come on welfare, you got to be out of your mind, David.
So here's the answer to your point. One, let's start with the last one. The refugees that we take in as America are mostly women and children, and brings me to second point. If you want to take purely women and children without their men, then you're going back to your point.
I don't want to take any of them. David, I don't want to take any of them.
Okay. Fine. Look, we are under, you're right, we are under no obligation.
We have no obligation. There is no national, there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says you have to take in refugees, foreigners, immigrants. We're a country of laws. We have no southern border whatsoever. We don't deport anybody. They walk over. We don't know who they are. The country is circling the drain financially. All right, we're going into a globalist economy where you have these corporate elites that just care about profits. They don't care about sovereignty or the U.S. culture or anything else. If they can make profits through the slave labor trade, and that's all this thing is, slave labor trade, they just bring them in. And so what is the benefit to Americans now for this?
We can argue immigration benefit over the years, and we can argue why your grandparents and others of hundreds of thousands.
They came in legally. They came in legally. They stood in line.
You bring me to the point, my friend. You bring me to the crux of the issue, and that is the point. So here's part two. Part one, you're right. We are under no obligations to take them in, right? But once they're in, they are legal refugees. And if we don't want to take them in, it's one thing. We can make that decision. There are pros and cons to why not. We went through that the first 5 minutes. But once they're in, they are legal refugees. When you're talking about refugees, they are legal, John. These are not illegal. So you're talking about Constitution? You know me to the core. Constitutionalists all the way. Let's talk about Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it give the states the right to say, not in my backyard? Where in the Constitution does it give the states the right to say that I'm not going to give them service to legal refugees? So when illegal refugees, the 14 that are in Louisiana or the 50 that are going to be in Virginia somewhere, are we going to say, no, when you're sick, we're not going to let you into the hospital because you happen to be an Arab? Are we going to say that if your house is on fire, the local fire department is not allowed to go shut it off because you're an Arab? We're going to say we're going to put you in internment camps? Let's talk about the Constitution. We are a country of laws. We are a country of the Constitution. We are America. Our American values remain despite the fear that's out there. We want to fight the terrorism. It is terrorism. It is Islamic terrorism. Anybody that says otherwise is crazy, moronic, and stupid. But we do it right. We do it based on our values. We do it based on our terms. And we do it the American way, not the way that these son of a guns want us to do it out of ISIS somewhere. So let's stick to the Constitution.
Okay, well, let's stick to the Constitution. By the way, 922 are with House of Delegates member David Ramadan. He represents the Loudoun County area. David is retiring, and I guess you got about another 6 weeks or so, right? And
yes,
then you're on to something else. You might be running for statewide office one day. That's my prediction. Anyway, totally different topic, David. So look, look, we all believe in the Constitution, but my thing is we have no obligation to take anybody in. And the fact of the matter is, and let's just, we're being candid with each other. Okay, it's not. You look at the San Bernardino thing yesterday. These people are Muslims. They're not Christians that are going in with guns and flak jackets and trying to blow people up. I mean, these are just the facts, right? The Parisian thing was ISIS. So you're looking at this and you're saying, why are you going to take people into the country when your enemy, who we have no clue how to defeat right now? No clue.
I have a clue how to defeat it.
I'm going to get to that in a minute. And if your suggestion is like everybody else that comes on the show, that some Arab army is going to pop up out of the ground like Lienogen versus the ants, then it's going to be the same answer as everybody. It's a phantom answer. How do you defeat ISIS?
Okay. So how do you defeat ISIS? Go back first to the source. What is the problem? We've defeated ISIS predecessor already. We've defeated it once, we've defeated it a couple times. We defeated them in Anbar province, where there's now the majority of their might. Our Marines went in and cleaned out Anbar. We took out every single terrorist in Anbar, right? But what do? We handed it back to a corrupt regime that doesn't work from the beginning, a regime that doesn't understand the difference between the Shias and the Sunni, between the different tribes and the history of the area. So in order to really solve that problem, it's time for a new Sykes-Picot. It's time for a new division of that area. I don't think in his entire career in D.C., the vice president had anything right to say except the fact that we shouldn't have put Iraq as one country. It is three countries. I was there a couple of years ago. I went to the Department of Commerce. Let me tell you, there is nothing similar or in common between the Kurds and the rest of the Iraqis except the fact that they are both under a country called Iraq. They're two separate countries. There is no similarity today between the Sunnis and the Shias. So how do we defeat them? Whether it's our Marines, they'll defeat them. Whether it's an Arab force, they'll defeat them. So you defeat them, and now what? Then their new form of ISIS will come up. It was Al-Qaeda, then it's IS, then it's ISIS, and then new form will come up until we solve the problem. We don't have today a president who has the might to solve the problem. We don't have a world order or United Nations that have the might to solve the problem. We have political correctness, and that needs to change. And until that change, nobody has a solution for ISIS. You got to solve it, otherwise it's a short-term temporary solution. if you can put the boots on the ground from wherever you're going to get them to solve the problem. But that said, let's go back to our issue that we were talking about, and you said